Hi everyone, my name is Ayça. I will introduce my experimental study of the paper joining techniques in an album dedicated to the Ottoman Sultan Ahmed I, made by the artist Kalender Pasha at the beginning of the 17th century. Now you see three pictures of Kalender's album pages, including different paper art techniques, such as calligraphy, illumination, paper filigree, as well as paper joining. Albums are complex assemblages that contain multi-layered papers. Pages are often composed with a central panel, an inner border framing the central artwork, and an outer border like in the picture. In his albums, Calendar used a particular type of inner border made of strips of different colors of paper, as you can see in the highlighted areas on the page. In this experimental study, I focused on how to make these inner borders and determine hypothetical procedures based on a thesis written about this album, providing general features and technical information about the production process. Additionally, I consulted high-quality photographs of the album pages to examine them. Based on experience gained during conservation and traditional Islamic art studies, methods were identified to use as a starting point for further experimentation, and historical references were consulted for these traditional methods. To be able to replicate Calendar's technique, traditional and natural materials, such as natural dyed Japanese paper and rich starch paste, similar to those the artist might have had in his time, were used in the experiments. The important characteristics of the paper that had to be considered during the experimental trials, such as the fiber property and grain direction, were identified. The experiment consisted of two phases, practicing how the paper strips were cut, adhered together, and made into the borders. There were a few important points that needed to be taken into account to execute the experiment successfully. The accordance of grain direction of paper layers, differential expansion of different paper layers when wet, the limited time available to place the strips onto the lining, and controlling the movement of the layered structure while drying. Although the stages look easily repeatable, it was challenging to assemble the layers in order to create a smooth, flat, and durable structure. Many different attempts were needed to make borders that appeared to match those in the original album. This picture shows the final product seeming flat, well adhered, and not detached. The final structure was stable and closely resembled the appearance of the original album. To conclude, first, this study showed that reproducing the inner borders of Kalender Pasha's album using traditional materials and methods is possible by following the steps provided in this research. Although production techniques may seem easily repeatable at first glance, this study demonstrated the importance of practical experiences to deeply understand and replicate them. This is one of the best ways to understand book production technology of a particular time. The making of the inner borders is a starting point to determine the physical construction of the album, which is neglected in an art historical analysis. A background in conservation studies and knowledge of traditional art techniques were key to being able to interpret the technical information, manipulate materials and tools to skillfully execute the experimental trials, discover a clear process for producing the borders, and give an accurate and comprehensive description of how this was done. This emphasizes the importance of the role of conservators since they have this knowledge and they are individuals who often both have access to the objects and have a chance to examine them up close. Thank you so much for your attention.